My name is Talia Smith, and I am a wife, and I have 2 stepchildren. My husband is a disabled veteran, and I was his primary caretaker until 2021. During that time, I also had a very successful career in corporate America. I had a very active and healthy lifestyle, and I was someone that only went to the doctors once a year for my annual checkups. However, in April 2021, I developed a urinary tract infection. I was not someone that had urinary tract infections on a regular basis, and I went to the doctor and requested a urinalysis and a culture. My urinary tract infection was confirmed, and I was prescribed ciprofloxacin. Before I took that antibiotic, I asked the doctor if there was anything I needed to be aware of. The doctor told me no, there was nothing I needed to be aware of. Cipro was a very safe and effective antibiotic, and they used it all the time for UTIs. For me, that was enough. I trusted my doctor, and I proceeded to take the antibiotic for my UTI. After my 3rd pill, I started experiencing pain throughout my entire body. It hurt to even stand on my heels. I noticed that I was having vision changes. I was developing what I now know is called peripheral neuropathy, which is numbness, tingling, and pain in all my extremities. I was getting these electrical zaps throughout my body, but more so in my head, just zap, zap, zap all the time. And then the most scary one that was happening was that I was having trouble walking. I couldn't walk, and I skipped the 4th pill and I went to the emergency room. And I told the doctor at the emergency room, I don't know what's happening to me, but all of a sudden I can't walk, and the only thing that's different is that I've been taking an antibiotic, but I know that that can't be it. The doctor looked at me and asked right away, are you taking Cipro? My heart dropped because I knew if that's the first thing he asked me, there must be some bad connection there. That is the day the doctor told me what a black box warning was. I had never heard of that before until that day. He told me to relax and to go home and to take some ibuprofen. In the next 3 or 4 days, I would be better. But unfortunately, that did not happen. I got worse. And I started becoming a frequent flyer in the hospitals and was admitted 3 times because I did not understand what was going on with my body. I did not understand why my whole body was stiffening up like the Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz. And I did not understand, as the doctors called it, my constellation of symptoms. The more I went to the doctors or to the hospital, the less anybody took me seriously. And what started as genuinely being concerned for me in my first couple of visits ended up turning into sending me to psychiatrists or sending psychiatrists in my room when I was admitted, which was very infuriating. It was extremely difficult for me to navigate the healthcare system because I was never someone that was sick before. I didn't know how to navigate it. I didn't know what to do. I was lost. This illness caused me to be able to not take care of myself and no longer take care of my husband. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't take care of myself or him. My progression was so rapid that within 5 months, I was on hospice. I could shower myself. The next week, I could not. I had to sit down in a chair. The week after that, I couldn't raise my hands to wash my hair. The week after that, I couldn't get my hands into a shirt. Like every week, it was progressing at a rapid pace. And I went back to my doctor who originally prescribed this medication. After doing some research, and I shared the black box warnings with her and asked her if she was aware of the fact that fluoroquinolone antibiotics were not to be used as first line. They were to be used as last resort only when no other treatment options were available. My doctor did not want any part of that conversation and told me the doctor would continue to prescribe Cipro because they always have, and no one has had a reaction like me. That devastated me because that was my doctor for a decade who I trusted. Every time I went to the doctors or to the hospital or during any of my admissions in the hospital, I just kept getting sicker. Every time they gave me a medication to try to treat one of my symptoms, I got worse. and I eventually realized that the medical system was not going to help me get better. I was denied a feeding tube every time I asked. That's the only way I could think of to eat, because I was having issues swallowing. I was even choking on my own saliva. I was eventually admitted to hospice in September 2021, weighing 60 pounds. 60. I had not eaten for 1 month. This was a very, very dark time for me and my family. I cannot explain what it feels like when a priest comes to your house and reads you your last rites with your family and friends. There is nothing more humbling, nothing which seems more final, and it really rocks you to your core. I will never be the same for that, ever. I was always someone that was a fighter, but after that fight in me has become even stronger. To this day, I have still not recovered. I am still on palliative care. I still require 24/7 care for my survival. I suffer from mast cell activation syndrome, which has been caused by the fluoroquinolone that I took. That adds an additional layer to my illness. I don't trust the medical system anymore. I don't trust doctors anymore. And I'm not saying that they're all bad, and I don't want that message to get out there. There are plenty of good doctors out there, and there are plenty of not good doctors, just like there are in any profession. But for me and what I've been through, I just try to stay away from that whole system because of the harm that it caused me. Like other floxies, I've suffered extreme trauma from the medical system, and I don't know how anyone ever gets over that. I think that's something we may carry with us probably forever. What I want people to know is this: fluoroquinolones are a class of antibiotics, and within that class there are many brands like ciprofloxacin, but there's also Levaquin and Avalox. There are many different kinds, so you may hear me say Cipro, but there are many other kinds of fluoroquinolones that people need to be aware of. Fluoroquinolones come in many forms: eye drops, ear drops, IV, pill form, injectables. You can get fluoroquinolone toxicity from any of those forms. The FDA has stated that fluoroquinolones should be used as last resort when no other treatment options are available due to their permanent and disabling side effects. There are 7 black box warnings which started in 2008. One would think that would be enough time for doctors to understand the warnings, but that is not the case. To protect yourself from fluoroquinolone toxicity, my advice would be to never take an antibiotic unless you're sure you actually need one. There are many people that take antibiotics and they don't need to. So I always say, test, don't guess. Make sure you actually need an antibiotic. And if you are prescribed a fluoroquinolone antibiotic, please ask for an alternative if there is one. What's unfortunate is that none of that is actually recognized by the medical system. And there aren't even diagnostic codes for fluoroquinolone toxicity. Not yet. There will be some codes in October 2025. I was a part of that project, and that's something I'm very proud of. However, there are no codes now. There are no diagnoses now. So if you are someone that is suffering from the adverse effects of a fluoroquinolone, like me, you will not get a diagnosis. It is very unlikely that you will find a doctor that understands what you're going through. You will probably be gaslit and made to feel like you are crazy. And my advice to you would be to hold true in your belief in knowing that you are floxed. Try to take someone to the doctors every time you go, and don't look for a medical diagnosis. That was one of the mistakes I made. I was looking for them to coin me with something, some term, so I would feel better. There is no term other than floxed. We're suffering from fluoroquinolone toxicity, and the sooner we realize that, the quicker we will be able to recover. I always held steadfast in my belief in the facts that I had been harmed by a fluoroquinolone antibiotic. 3 pills in, I couldn't even finish my prescription. 1 + 1 = 2. Seems pretty self-explanatory to me. And I know that people that are going through the same thing as me are treated the same exact way. We have this constellation of symptoms. Doctors dismiss us. We are gaslit. And we are made to believe that we are crazy. And we are not. If you go to the FDA website, all the data is there, which is why I don't understand why any medical professional can deny what we are experiencing. In 2015, the FDA coined the term Fluoroquinolone Associated Disability, FQAD, and they list out all the symptoms of fluoroquinolone toxicity. I don't know my prognosis. I don't know if I'll recover. It's been 3.5 years already, and I'm still in my hospital bed. But I am proud of myself for many reasons. First, that I made it this far. Second, I'm still fighting with every part of me that's still breathing, because we definitely need change when it comes to fluoroquinolone toxicity and the use of fluoroquinolone antibiotics. No matter how sick I've been, I was part of a project that got ICD-10 codes approved for fluoroquinolone adverse effects. Those will become available in October 2025, and I am proud that I have taken the anger and the hurt that I feel inside from this experience and from the medical system and have been able to use it for a positive purpose. I am very proud of myself for that, because instead of just screaming and yelling like I feel like I want to many of the times, I don't. I put that energy into my advocacy efforts to make sure that other people don't get sick like me. That is my message now, and that'll be my message until I take my last breath. I'd also like to mention that I currently have a petition out on change.org for informed consent for fluoroquinolone antibiotics. We know that fluoroquinolone antibiotics will remain on the market for the foreseeable future, so one of the ways to protect people from becoming floxed, informed consent would make sure that a doctor discussed the warnings and adverse effects with the patient before dispensing a fluoroquinolone antibiotic. Then, the patient would have the necessary information they need to make an informed healthcare decision. I can tell you this, if I had informed consent and my doctor actually told me about the warnings and used those words, permanent and disabling side effects, I would have never taken Cipro. Never. I would have asked for an alternative, because for me, taking a prescription like that for a UTI just doesn't seem worth the risk. And to everybody watching and listening to this podcast, I always say, don't take your health for granted. Protect yourself in any way you possibly can, because you have no idea when it could change. Mine literally changed overnight with a pill, a prescription, and left me unable to care for my husband, unable to work anymore, disabled, on hospice, to palliative care, to here. So if you're someone that thinks that this is rare and it can't happen to you, I'm telling you, it can. It happened to me. So please let my story be a message to you, and to make sure you don't suffer the same fate that I have, or any of us that are suffering from fluoroquinolone toxicity. The more we share our stories, and the more we speak about this, we will eventually get the change we need. It may take a long time, but I firmly believe we will get the change we need. I thank you for your time in this podcast and allowing me to share my experience and to discuss fluoroquinolone toxicity and to raise awareness for our community. I really appreciate it. Thank you.